basically how I do SEO and how we rank is we'll rank like a theme or a service or a product or whatever, and then typically based on it, it'll be a location, okay? And the location's the modifier, or near me. People don't optimize for that. You can get a lot of good optimization going after the keyword terms like near me or the location. And typically how Google works is it starts locally and then it will expand nationally. And so once you start ranking for that location, you can start creating like different location pages. So like when we rank for Houston, then we'll start building Sugar Land, Katy, you know, we'll on, and then we'll link all those pages together and then point them to the Houston page. That's called like siloing. And you can continue to link that up, right? So you link all those to the city, then you link all the city pages together and point to like a Texas page. And you'll be surprised in most of these location searches if people are typing in Houston, okay? You know what a lot of people type in after that? They type in the TX, right? And so once you really dominate for certain keywords based on volume, you start going after the long tail key phrases. That TX builds the foundation to build the Texas, and then you start getting a weight on your website for this, and then that's when you can add the Dallas, the San Antonio, whatever, right? Nationally, when you start getting nationally, what happens is it just doesn't matter, right? You just rank for that keyword term. So like internet marketing, I know a lot of you know Neil Patel out there. I was doing really some strong SEO with like internet marketing Houston, and for a short period of time, I was right below and above Neil Patel. Where like Google, it's called the Google dance. I was getting to this there, but what happened is our page was a services page, okay, about internet marketing as an agency. People that search internet marketing are searching for internet marketing. They're not like, so the purpose of our page was different than the intent of what people were searching for. So Google kind of put it there, got the data that people were backing out quickly of the page, and it wasn't, that's not what the page was meant to be about, even though we had the domain authority to rank for it. And then Google dropped us to the bottom of the first page, and now we're on the second page for it. But I'm okay with that because typically people that type internet marketing are searching for internet marketing. They're not searching for an agency yet. It's at a different place in the funnel. So everything that Google does, everything that the algorithm does is all based on intent. And so you got to really figure out when they're typing that in, what's the intent of what they're trying to achieve, and are you answering that intent? And we can talk about content marketing in a little bit. I know you had a question. So has anybody heard the AIDA model? Okay. Interest, decision, action, attention, I'm like dyslexic here. Attention, interest, decision, action, okay? And when you look at like a sales funnel online and you're generating content, we start generating content, and most people generate content at the bottom of the funnel, right? Because it's the closest spot to a conversion. As you mature in your business, as you mature in your content marketing strategy, you start working your way up the funnel, okay? And so really, and I go through this in my book, this is how you establish authority. So when people are at the top of the funnel searching for something that they're just realized they might have a problem, and they're like trying to find like whether it be symptoms. And so here's the thing, 90% of all searches online are informational searches. People are trying to figure something out. It's like the online encyclopedia, online, yellow pages, white pages. But basically, if people find you here, okay, and they read other stuff, but you show up here and they've seen your article, and then they move a little bit further down the funnel. If you're talking about products, it could be like, there's really some good examples online about big screen TVs. It gets more and more specific, right? Then it's like brands, sizes, plasma versus LCD, like how people, it's called the customer journey of how people find it online. But basically, if you have content that addresses each one of these areas, it actually kind of trips the algorithm with Google, and Google goes, these guys are in every kind of spot, and they're going to give your give your website more authority or more weight. And really, I think that's some of the name of the game is creating content. And every time they look and they come with you, they're going to start trusting you more because they're more familiar with you. Something that you're more familiar with, you give greater weight to. And so by the time they get down here, if you've touched them other times before they were actually ready to buy, like I was a headhunter for a long time, and the interesting thing is there's really good candidates, and if they knew the hiring manager before they got unemployed, they were looked at differently. But when you become unemployed for whatever reason, if you don't have a job, like people don't look at you the same way. Some of you maybe experienced that, I don't know, but I can tell you that if they're familiar with you before you need something, they're going to give it greater weight because you're trying to decide, you know, is this person a friend or foe? Is this person really trying to help me or not? But if you're giving them value all the way through, it's just like with tips and it's all human interaction. All the internet is human interaction. But it's like a waiter. It's like if a waiter says your name, if a waiter touches you, if a waiter like on your shoulder, if they write thank you on the back of it, there's a greater likelihood that they're going to get a higher tip because they feel like that there's some kind of connection and reciprocity kicks in. And that's that same strategy in this kind of new economy is you want to put out that content. Going back to what I said, that 1% of people generate content. And that's how you're going to build that know, like, and trust. But did that kind of answer your question? I know I kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent there. Or does someone else have a question? Did you have a question? No? Okay. Do you have a question?
Well, I was just saying that you want to talk a little bit about automation. You have some good tips on automation and content creation.
Yeah, I can definitely talk about that. Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask about, is Wikipedia really valuable in the Google search or not? I used to have a Wikipedia.
So this is my opinion of Wikipedia. Again, like what I'm talking from is personal experience. Okay, so everybody's gone through a different kind of experience and has a different lens that they look through. So I just kind of want to preface that. My experience with Wikipedia is they do a really good job organizing information online. And Google, their kind of thing beyond don't be evil, they took that away. But basically, so now I guess they're evil. But basically, their job is to categorize information online. And Wikipedia tends to rank really high up for like definitional terms. And so it has a lot of domain authority, and Google really likes that. So anytime I'm building out a content strategy, I tend to look at how Wikipedia organized that information to figure out how I'm going to build that content on my site or create that sitemap of that content. So I really, really like how Wikipedia does things, and Google likes it too, so I kind of like to go with what is already working. As far as driving traffic to you, there's a lot of people that go to Wikipedia, but I haven't seen a lot of referral traffic, at least for the type of clients that I work with. But if someone's searching for some kind of symptom or something that they might need more information on, and you can get that link back to yourself, and that link back to yourself where you used to be able to go on Wikipedia and create all this kind of content, they've made it a lot more difficult. That link back to your website, because Wikipedia is very, very strong in their domain authority, that link matters, okay? That link will really kind of help you in the rankings, because what links are, if we're talking about SEO, is basically, we're going back to online PR, it's a vote. It's a vote for you. That's how you want to think about it, is like, if we're all in this room and you say, hey, who's really good at WordPress, and everybody points to somebody, that person in everyone else's eyes has more authority. And that's really how Google really revolutionized search back in the day. And the primary factor that they built their search engine off of was off of links and anchor text. They've come out with some updates from that, and they're starting to move. And what they're trying to do is based on user experience, like the best possible user experience, and it's starting to weight a lot more towards content. Okay, like again, it all kind of comes back to content creation, and having, whether it be video content or image or infographics. People love infographics, or text. Yeah.
I have a question. What about, what are the disadvantages or helpers rankings if you have a lot of return customers? Does that still sometimes feel more in authority if people come to your website and then come back and then come back and it builds that relationship? Does that affect your SEO ranking at all?
Yes. Okay, so I'll hit that, and then we'll try to move into email automation unless there's more questions. I'm happy. So just so y'all know, so I can pass some of these out. If you go to bestseopodcast.com, it'll take you to our website, and we syndicate our podcast everywhere. And we have over 450 episodes. We've been doing it for about 10 years. And we're going into all this kind of stuff, even in more detail. We're looking at different articles, so there's all kinds of topics that you can kind of pick and glean from it what you want. So if this is helpful, I don't know if it is, but if this is helpful, a lot more of that is online there. But what you just asked about is we're kind of running all across places, like Google Analytics data. Setting up your Google Analytics data is really, really important on a website. Anything you're doing online, if they haven't set up goals, if they haven't set up analytics, how are you supposed to track it? How are you supposed to get better, right? You're just not knowing what's going on. Google looks at things that are like time on page, which we were talking about earlier, time on page, number of sessions, if people are clicking the back button, when people get to your website. So when we get, what we do when we're doing some SEO, there's some things we can do to throw up you pretty high in the Google rankings. And then what Google does is goes, hey, I want to give this more data. So my rule of thumb is like 100 views or something like that to try to get some data to figure out, okay, how do people interact with the content? So going back to the kind of internet marketing example, when when Google threw that up on the first page right next to Neil Patel, people weren't interacting with it positively because that's not what they were looking for. They were clicking back and they were leaving. So to your point directly, 94% of people will come to a website, leave, and never come back. 94%. That's where like remarketing, retargeting comes in, like where Amazon used to chase you around the internet. That's pretty easy to set up with pixels. But yes, the return visitor, Google's looking at the different touch points that were created. Someone takes an action on your website, and it can track that, and it can track to see what they're doing, to see if when people come to it, are they engaged, and how they're interacting with that website. So there's all these different kind of metrics. But if people come first time, don't buy, leave, Google doesn't like that, right? And so it all kind of plays into, are you providing the right kind of information to what people are seeking when they go to your website, and then are they taking action? Now, asking somebody, kind of what I said before, going for a free consultation, you're asking for a lot up front, but getting someone's email address and giving them something of value is a much lower threshold to get them to take action. So phone calls, form submissions, downloadables, that you're trying to get people to interact or engage with your website, and everything you do should be tiered to that. Yeah. It's a picture of me and Chris Burst is a co-host. It's like little caricatures. If you're on like iTunes or something like that. But if you go to bestseopodcast.com, it'll take you to our website, and then there'll be some more information about the podcast, and then whatever, if you're listening to Spotify or anything else, you can go click on that. And if anybody wants that, I can pass that out later. But so okay, where okay, email automation. Okay, let's talk about email automation. So email automation is how I actually got started. Okay, prior to this, I had a headhunting agency. Everything's done so archaic. Okay, it's like 50 phone calls calling people, hey, buy a chicken, you want to buy a chicken, you want to buy a chicken. And like you tell someone, you find someone who wants to buy a chicken, you just keep calling people, and you build out a database, and then, you know, when you have a job, you reach out to them, let them know. It was really a lot of manual work, and I didn't like that. And I was like, how do I, like, we're in this technology age, how do I leverage technology? And, you know, I started off first spamming people, I'll admit it. So I was really good at figuring out how to cold spam people, and it did work about 10 years ago really well because everybody was reading their emails, and then, you know, look what marketers do, they ruin it. I mean, who answers their phone today? I don't, you know, like, it's all these automated calls. So, like, but in the beginning, it like worked, and then, you know, marketers ruin it when they find it works really well. But so I started off doing email automation, and, you know, the Can Spam Act came into place, and then you could get sued. I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. But really, once I started to learn what you could do with emails, it was really pretty impressive. You could send, based on when someone goes to your website, if they go to different pages, you can lead score them, and it triggers an email drip if they've captured their information. So really the goal is to get as much information as you can. We do a lot of like SMS strips, so we try to get their phone numbers, their cell phone numbers, and text message open rates are still really, really high. Also Facebook Instant Messenger open rates, depending on you know, who your target market is extremely high as well. So we've actually moved, we'll do the emails as kind of that core drip, but a lot of people, you know, get kind of overrun with spam, and you don't know if your email is getting seen, so you got to really look at your open rates. But I do believe emails are kind of the core foundation, and people typically have an email address for, on average, 8 years. But where we've seen the best quick response rates is in text message and in Facebook Messenger, and we've actually circled back to do direct mail drips, especially for B2B. So direct mail drips for B2B works really well. But if y'all are not familiar with how email automation works, it's pretty cool. Is if you get their email address, you can send them a series of emails automated. So I'll get someone's email address, I'll put them in a drip, and I'll completely forget about whatever is going on, and I can focus on something else. And then typically they'll come back around. 40% of people will 90 days. Really kind of the window. We do a lot of like DWI lawyers or something like that. Like that might be 3 days or 7 days or something like that. You got to think about what your sales cycle is, who you're going after, but you can hit them with these emails. Also, based on if they click on a link or they go to, like I said, a different page, some if-then statements. So you could send them this versus that, and you can build all these custom lists, and you can get really complicated. But most people, you want to send maybe a series of emails. And the same thing we're doing on the website, you want to do in the emails, right? So maybe it's an introduction, like who you are, establish a little bit of authority. Hey, we've been in business this long. We've done these sort of things. Second one, maybe it's testimonials, right? So it's like, hey, this is what we've done for somebody. We could do it for you too. Third one is maybe, hey, here's some great content. Why don't you download it, right? You're really, it's like a funnel. You're trying to capture their email address. Now, a lot of people too are probably thinking in their head, and it's okay that like email doesn't work, okay? Email doesn't work. And we debate with that too. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on your industry, how good your email list is. Do they want to look at your stuff? Like, you got to look at all that data. But what I like even better than emails is remarketing. So is anybody familiar with like remarketing and retargeting? Yeah. Yeah, like, I don't know, people call it different things. What retargeting is all you got to do is get them to go to your website, right? So if y'all go to my website, then for 540 days, I can show you ads. And it's like a one-way conversation. So like, I decide when the conversation stops, right? So unless you clear your cache or cache or whatever you want to call it, if you clear that, okay, like it's gone. But if you have that on there, those ads that are relevant to you, you can, even on LinkedIn, if you go to LinkedIn, there's this little box right over in the corner. You can retarget people on LinkedIn for B2B. It's extremely effective. Facebook, it comes up in your feed, and it looks pretty native. And Facebook ads are great because they're very native. They're cheap. You know, but you can follow them around on banner ads with websites. But I like it because it's basically like an email drip that, like, if they've gone to your website, you can have that conversation. And so, maybe we'll show you one ad or 3 ads on the first day, and then maybe on day 5 I could change it to something else. Usually I like to run 2 or 3 different ads, and what you got to remember when you do this is the more time goes by, okay, the more time that goes by, the stronger your offer has to be to bring them back. And also, I wouldn't offer discounts. I don't like offering discounts. I would throw in stuff, like I have some stuff. Hey, sign up for some paid consulting, and I'll throw in a book. I'm not going to give a discount, but I'll throw in a book. I'll try to get the value up to the level that you feel that it's worth it without devaluing what I'm offering. Because if people know that they can get it 30% off or 20% off, they're not going to buy, because they're going to wait till they can get that price again. And it's really, there's always going to be able to be someone that's going to do it cheaper for you. I believe like value first as kind of like a philosophy. Is there anything email marketing specific that you wanted me to kind of touch on or address?
Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Okay. Did anybody have any questions? I know I kind of went into some detail. I'm sorry. Yep.
I have a question about
Yeah.
more email marketing. So what is like kind of your general suggestions on how many emails you should send out in a week?
Touch points. I'll just kind of put it in the bucket of touch points. Whether it's email newsletter or some nurture aspect of it. Think about the relationship that you want to have with that prospect or that client or whatever. Do you want to be close to them like you are with your family that you talk to every day, or your best friends? Or is it like one of your good friends that you talk to maybe once a week, or relatives or whatever, or monthly, right? After monthly, I personally believe it's kind of like you just kind of run into people and you're just kind of acquaintances. So it should either be daily, weekly, or monthly based on the relationship that you want to have to them. A lot of people think sending too many emails is too much. The data actually supports the more emails you send, if you're offering something of value and it's not just like, whatever. People want information that's helpful to them. And that's why in some of these lists, like, hey, what are you interested in? What can we send you? And they constantly iterate what that content is. And it can get quite overwhelming if you're doing it as like generating all this content. You got to kind of start somewhere, build that core kind of funnel. But what my general rule of thumb is typically 40% of people buy in the first 90 days. So, okay, go for the 90 days, however many touch points you would do in real life. So the internet, in my opinion, is what you would do if you could do it perfect in person. Like if you could write every email, if you could talk to every prospect, and you have your kind of sales cycle, try to recreate that sales cycle, how you would do it for your perfect client or the textbook kind of conversion, and build that with scripts, build that with automation, build that with videos to do that, so your website becomes your like 24-hour salesperson. Does that make sense? And so whatever that sequence looks like, you just recreate that and put that online of how much you want to touch, how many touch points you want to have. The data says by the sales executive, something, whatever, a sale's typically made on like the 8th touch point, okay? And all, like 90% of salespeople stop after the 3rd, and very few even get to the 3rd, actually. So there's some really interesting like infographics out there. Yep.
That's the other side, the price of the product, though.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. When you talk about email marketing, when you talk about anything, you got to kind of structure whatever your strategy is going to be. B2B and B2C are very different of how you want to approach that. Selling a service versus selling a product, also very, very different. And so what we like to do with clients before we I don't believe that SEO is a commodity. I don't believe that PPC is a commodity. There's people that know how to do it, but what's the strategy that they're going to execute and what's going to encompass with that? So one of the things we actually like to do with our clients is we do a free 30-minute consultation. But before we'll bring on a client, I'm talking a Fortune 1,000 company, okay, down to like a small business owner. they still go through the same process, and it actually works really, really effective for us, is we put them into a paid consulting session to build a strategy for them that they can either execute internally, they can have their current agency execute for them, and we're like kind of like a professional look at it, or we'll execute it for them. It's a 100% money back guarantee. It also applies against any services you do with us. And for us, it's really hard for anyone, I believe, to give a quote to somebody of like what you're going to deliver for them without truly understand their business, what they need, understand what they've tried before, what their tendencies are, how much access you're going to have, what's the state of their current marketing. Like there's all these things. Like I can say like a contractor, right? They just bid stuff, and then like either they make a bunch of money and they overbid you and you got hosed, or they got screwed and didn't make anything. You know what I mean? Like, so what I try to do is go, okay, let's figure out what you truly need. Let's break everything down and build a customized plan for this specific instance. I can give you one quick example. We're working with a chiropractor that works with PI attorneys, and basically we were looking at the keywords, and the keywords that they had to compete with are directly against lawyers, and they don't have the kind of money that PI lawyers can spend on like car accident lawyer and all these different terms. And so we were trying to look at these kind of different strategies. Now, another person that I actually know started talking to him, and they started like potentially like looking at to do business together or whatever. Basically, he came up with a strategy, and then they said, we want you to execute this strategy. And what it was, and I wasn't a big fan of this because I felt like it was like black hat, if you know what that is or whatever, or gray. Basically, it was bidding on people that in Google were looking for Geico claims on accidents. And so in AdWords, we were bidding against what people looking for accidents, and it was kind of this bait and switch call. It actually worked really well in the beginning, and then Google goes, hey, the value score in AdWords, or the relevancy score, went way down to 1. Cost went way up. Google said, we're going to rarely show this. So it worked for like a month, and I was just like, okay. And basically we switched to a SEO strategy that's working well for them. But what I was trying to express there was that was a strategy that was recommended that we execute, and I think we executed the strategy impeccable. It was just a bad strategy. Now it falls in the bucket of like SEO, but it was like how we did it. Did we execute it right? And also what were the results of that? And that was a recommendation. I was like, I don't have any data on this. I don't think it works. I don't really want to do it, but if this is what y'all guys want to do, cool, we can try it. We'll do it. And I was kind of interested to see what would happen. That was kind of the results of it, which now I have in my brain. I was like, Google's really smart, and they figured out how to go, this is not relevant. But that was a strategy that that's a strategy that's, hey, you come to me for PPC, and hey, here's a strategy. If I recommended that strategy and it didn't work, would you say that PPC is ineffective because of that? Or was the strategy in the tool that was used ineffective in the way it was being used? Because also we executed that strategy properly. So I know that it might not be the best example, but it really pops in my head to really say, hey, PPC is not PPC is not PPC. SEO is not SEO is not SEO. It's really about these are different tools, and what's the strategy that you come up with to execute it, right? And also, if you're going after SEO, these keywords are these keywords that are actually convertible keywords, right? And we found that a number of times too. We like to kind of run AdWords, see where the conversions are coming from, and then move that money into SEO if we don't have it. Google used to show you everything that came to your website, and then they were like, no, you got to pay for that data. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of, I don't think it's like an art. I think it's more like a science. It's more like data driven. Like if you have that data, you can make those decisions, and you can look at things in a microcosm or even in a macrocosm or microcosm, figure that out and see if those things will apply. So it's really about how you use these tools, I guess, to answer that. Did that confuse everybody? I'm sorry. All right. Yeah. Sorry. Business to business or business to consumer. B2C is a lot easier. B2B is a lot more complicated, and they're longer sales cycles. Typically, they're higher dollar values, and that's where email automation and some of the automated tools really come in effectively. And I believe really that email automation is underutilized today. And I've talked to some really big businesses here in town, and no one's doing email automation very well. It really, really surprises me. There's only a few players nationally that are doing it at an excellent level. Yeah. So for email automation, I am HubSpot certified, even though I'm not a fan of it. Okay. I don't believe that you need to spend $300 or more per month just to get access to a tool. HubSpot, so kind of mid-sized businesses, HubSpot actually built the term, I don't know if you knew this or not, so they built the term inbound marketing. They created that term and built everything around. They're really, really good at marketing, and they'll convince you need it. And I am certified in it because a lot of the medium-sized businesses definitely use it. But when I look in how they're using it, they have this, Lamborghini that they're driving around, and they're going 20 miles an hour with it, and there's not even any drips built out. I think for the majority of people in here, a Constant Contact, a Aweber, or a MailChimp. MailChimp has added the automation functions, very, very affordable. I think that they just switched their model. Before it was like free up to $2,000. I think they might have some kind of monthly fee associated with it. I personally use something called Active Campaign. Active Campaign's $99 for 50 seats, and it does almost everything that Infusionsoft utilizes. If y'all have heard there, the kind of cream of the crop is in Infusionsoft. I hired an email guy from Infusionsoft, and unless you're selling like info products online, or you're like a really big company, you don't need any of these tools. You could do just fine with MailChimp, and really all this stuff too. I know it's super overwhelming. Email's overwhelming. What I think I want to express to you, so you don't feel overwhelmed, is figure out one thing that you're really good at, like I was talking with social media, and get really good at that and build content deep. Okay. And like I showed whatever it was, where the videos, here's the 3 kind of videos you need. You know what I mean? Those are your core assets. You could do other videos, but everything is tertiary once you build that core kind of strategy. So with your emails, literally start with a 5 email drip, like 1 5 email drip, and generic to every person. Build a core asset, and then over time you want to build on it, but you want to start with something and not get kind of whatever paralysis of just all these different things that you have to do. Sure.
Is your key building citations, and if so, who you guys going with? You guys building in-house? What's the strategy?
Yeah, so I've used a lot of different people for building citations, and anything that's computer generated, like those computer generated citations, if you want to go back and check and see if Google's indexing them. So what we were finding out is the computer generated citations, they were kicking it out to whoever. I'm not going to throw anybody on the bus, but basically if not 70% of those citations, search for them in Google and see if they're coming up, because if they're not getting indexed, it's really not a benefit to you, right? Because you don't have Google linking that back to you because it's not in kind of their sphere. What he's talking about is something called NAP listings, name, address, and phone number. Basically, yellow pages or white pages, whatever, went online, and then they went everywhere, and there's just a ton of them. Directories don't provide very much juice anymore. These listings too, what we're seeing, we are manually building them. To answer your question, we're manually building them, and also we're actually changing up the descriptions in each one of them a little bit. Huh? No. You could spin the content that the client gives you, but we're basically maybe adding. You could double spin it and run through a plagiarism checker if you wanted to. But just the basic concept of what I'll tell you is, if the content's a little bit different on every citation, just the name, address, phone number, and website are exactly the same, it's getting indexed a lot more in Google. Also, depending on what citations you're going after, social, okay, like building out social profiles, social citations, really, really powerful too. And you're getting all those kind of links back to yourself, and we're seeing a lot of power in that. And so there's, what are some other things we're doing related to citations? So okay, Google My Business. Yeah. Okay, so what I'll tell you too, the thing about citations and why you want to create those, and this is something that not a lot of people know. So here's some real value related to Google My Business. Did anybody know, like be honest, did anybody know that when you go to Google and search for something, that's actually a combination of multiple different search engines combined under a big umbrella? Okay? You know that? Yeah? Like so, yeah, it's not a lot of people know that. So Google instituted something called Google or Universal Search, and that's where the videos, the pictures, all the different, aggregated basically sites came under one roof, and local. So if you're trying to rank in Google My Business, that is actually a different search engine that's similar in how the algorithm is written, but you can rank in maps really, really quickly. And what people don't know, in my opinion, with Google My Business is, when you go put in the little, your business is about these different things. I'm at a loss for what that word is, but basically you're saying it's about, it's categories. The categories, like the categories and tags. So when you're putting in the categories, all those categories, those words need to be on your homepage. You need in your on your homepage. Also, Google wants to see like what you're about. Google really likes brands. So going back to like map citations, Google wants to see your information. Like think about it like real estate online. You want to have as much real estate online as possible that is congruent. So the more congruency Google sees, the more trust that it builds. Hold on one second. I want to finish this. So basically, you want to put in on your homepage, you know how you have in your footer your location? Put your main headquarters if you're multi-location, but put that location up in the text. Google wants to see it twice. It's building affirmative kind of like, yes, this is right? And also you want to talk about who your customers are on your homepage. You want to talk about the verticals or things that you offer. Some of this stuff is a little bit of a blend with the About Us page, but Google wants to see this on the homepage. The biggest thing that I've seen to get things to rank quickly is citations, the categories and tags that you list in there on your homepage. And then also there's those mini blogs that you can create in the Google My Business. You want to do that because you're getting and put those links back to your site in your anchor text, and you're getting links from Google, right? So have you heard of something called Google Stacks? Yeah. So they work. And that's kind of that concept associated with that if you're going to go. So I've actually seen these complex systems built like PBNs of like Google Stacks where you're pulling stuff from like the Amazon server and all kinds of crazy stuff. It just depends what you're wanting to do, but you can build them pretty quick. It depends on what your strategy is and like what tier if you're going to build it. Like we're typically not doing that, but we're like powering up socials and then driving stuff through socials on like Web 2.0s like Weebly or whatever, like, and we're building content there, if that makes sense. And then we're driving that content to the Google My Business, and links to your Google My Business page can give you a really nice jolt in the rankings. All these things that you can do to kind of put some pressure on Google to get you up in the rankings. If your content's not there and you're not having that time on page, if you're not having the number of sessions, if you're not doing those things, it'll drop like a rock. So it really has to be a full strategy. Yeah? Cool. Okay. Sorry.
500 posts on my blog.
Okay.
I've been doing it a while.
Sure. Okay.
So, is that 2 minutes?
No, but no, I don't think it is. I don't think you need to create any more. I think you're not first position for like everything. With 500 blogs, it means that the power of those blogs is not situated in a way that it's really helping you out. So there's something that, if you look up the term siloing, it's basically how you build out your site and where you're pointing those kind of boats or links internally on your website to these different pages. And in the kind of hyperlinks, it's called anchor text, and you want to point those pages in your blogs to maybe your service pages or maybe your home page. You want to go in on the back end and use the Yoast plugin that we were talking about to get them all green for the right categories. And then you want to do categories and tags on the back end. I've seen on blogs, if you just build out the categories and tags on the back end, and you're basically going, Google, if they're talking about this, like this is the category, it helps Google out quite a bit. And so I've seen that be really effective. You want 5 to 7 hyperlinks on your site, and you want maybe 3 or 4 of them to go internally on pages, and you want 2 or 3 of them to go off the high domain authority sites. So Google's also looking at where you're linking out to. Are you sharing useful information, or are you just like being stingy and like keeping all that to yourself? Yeah.
So what I've done, so I've got my business for 20 years, so I got like no, this was from tell you. I started deleting stuff. Because at the time it was like 1 or 2 sentences, right? Or I'd have like a this, then, that thing, and I'd have an image on some random image. What the hell was I thinking? You know, and Chris Lema was like, oh yeah, or not Chris Lema, who am I thinking of? Seth Godin.
Okay, yeah.
And Seth would have, a paragraph. She was like, I'm going to post every day, right? Well, that's just no longer the point. So for me, I'm going back, deleting things that just make no sense, that offer no value whatsoever. Some of the ones I'm going through, I'm like, this is good stuff. I'm reposting, I'm actually pulling it out further. I'm like stretching it out, putting more information. I'm honestly seeing great traffic from that. Like just on old posts, all of a sudden 85 blog post ideas. Here's what I thought. Page 2 for that sucker.
Yeah, so the thing that I would do too before you delete posts is look at the domain authority of that page. Because if it's been around for a long time and it has good domain authority, I wouldn't delete it. But yeah, refreshing the content, re-adding the content. Typical blogs, the threshold used to be 500. You know, if you want to be on first page on Google, the data is really close to 2,000. Okay, so you want at least 750 words in your blog, or roughly, or over 1,000 is kind of a good rule of thumb. Also on the images, okay, on the images, name your image. Don't have your image be like, you know, if you upload it from. Yes, exactly. You don't want that. That doesn't help Google, right? And so you want to. The rule of thumb that I do is the first post or the first picture, I always name it the keyword I'm trying to rank for. I always put that in that. Also, you can put, like if you're doing local, you're talking about the different maps. You could do GPS coordinates. You know, yeah. I have watched. I have not read that. I've read where there's a documentary called The Creepy Line. It's on Netflix. It's really good about how Google works and basically the Chrome browser. So the Chrome browser will, basically they came out with the Chrome browser when Facebook came out, and it's all about like what your behavior is online, and we kind of addressed this before. That's what the Google Chrome bar is for, is to track what you're doing once you leave the search engine on the page, and it's collecting data on you. There's something called geofencing or geotargeting we're starting to do a lot of. I looked back to see, Google has data back on me since 2012 of where I was at a specific time. They keep all this data, and you can market to people if they're doing an open house or at a conference or something like that. Yeah, no, it's really crazy what can be done. Yeah, there's a lot of like Facebook with the action data, with the political side of things really happened. I also read How Google was Built, which is really good, and it talks about how the company was built, but also they interwove how the algorithm was written. But I read about a book a week, and so I'll have to check it out.
Google's always been around, but it's going to be overtaken by blockchain.
By what? What's blockchain? Oh, blockchain. Yeah. The internet, my opinion, the internet's still very young. It's a teenager. Okay, like it hasn't been around very long, and it's constantly changing and evolving. I think that VR or even augmented reality is going to be really big. We're looking at podcasting in 360 right now, and yeah, so the cameras are in 360. Also, I got the Oculus last year, which is Facebook bought it, and they're moving into the gaming space. It's basically about attention. So everything online, now the currency is people's attention. So how long can you hold it, and what can you do with it? And what I'm seeing with Oculus is you can go into a room and play chess or a board game or whatever with somebody in virtual reality. Also, for co-working people, they're starting to have these apps where you basically, and there's data that say that people are feeling more connected. Like you into the co-working space area so people can talk to you, or you're in the library, or you're taking a break and you like move through a person of where that is. But there's starting to be a real blend. I think blockchain, I'm starting to see a lot of stuff with blockchain on the commerce side of it, where they write the scripts on shipping. So like China's like, hey, like we want to get paid, and we're not going to let this stuff in the port. And then basically, if it's delivered, it triggers these contracts. I was also at the Small Business Expo, and they were doing a lot with blockchain. That statement, though, that blockchain is going to overtake it, I think everything's going to evolve, and everything's going to become kind of one. You know what I mean? Like self-driving cars. I mean, look at Tesla. Tesla is taking all the data of every driver in the car, aggregating that data, and making the car drive better every minute. You know what I mean? And so I think it could go a lot of different directions, and blockchain is very, very interesting. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Use the word that you want searching for. Just write the same thing, okay? Like, and then, so just write the same thing in the alt description. You don't have to necessarily do the description. You just need the alt text and like what the image is named for. But you want congruence in that, so I would just keep them the same. But you actually don't need to fill all those boxes in. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I agree with everything that she's saying. So to wrap up just real quick, so if anybody wants a book, I have 2 books left. So, but what this is about is, I know some of the stuff we talked about is really overwhelming. Internet marketing is just, there's so much, like SEO in itself, there's so much. We didn't even touch the surface of it. What I did in this book is I kind of told a little bit about my story, but I outlined how to create that credibility and trust online, what you're looking to do. It's basically like behavior science. And then I go into all the different tools, whether it be AdWords, landing pages, SEO, PR, all the different kind of categories of or tools that internet marketing has. I give examples of things that we've done, clients, national examples of what that is and how to do that. So this is a really good foundational book. I do have it on Amazon, and it is on Audible, because a lot of people don't like to read or don't have time to read. So if you're working out or driving or whatever. But yeah, so this is a good foundational book. If you're looking to take your business online or grow it online, I don't use all these kind of technical jargon in here and try to confuse you. I really try to put it in a kind of lay words. So that's what this book's meant for. And it's really for people that trade on their name, but there's application. When I say trade on your name, plumber, electrician, anybody that's doing some kind of direct response marketing online that's building a business. But this book's a good resource for foundational. If some of the stuff is too technical or you wanted more technical stuff, that's what we do on the podcast. So that's really the focus of that, and it's broken into different topics, and we curate different articles and bring on some guests. We had the guest Search Engine Journal just on there, and Dwayne Forrester and some different people to get their kind of insights on trends and stuff like that. And that's kind of what that's meant for. And then, I do run an agency, about 25 people. We definitely have an army of contractors beyond that, because people come to you. We were talking about building a website. We were building 7 websites last month, and I don't have a team to build 7 websites. And if I tell people, hey, I'll start building it in like 90 days or 120 days, people don't want that. So I have some really good contractors. I'm looking for contractors. Okay, I'm hiring about 2 people every month. So if you're interested, we're just moving to a new location, and love to talk to you more, because we really need more people. So thanks. Yeah. Was that good? Okay. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yeah.